Okay, I think this is it, yeah. Actually, I'm not sure how to even do whatever dumb thing I just did. But anyway, done it now. Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll just wait to see if anyone joins. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, let's just delete it now. So, yeah, I was supposed to do an interview. Whoever's watching, unfortunately, it got cancelled. So, I just thought I'll do a quick live stream and maybe see what people are interested in, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I was supposed to do an interview. Oh, it's kind of funny, man. Kind of funny, kind of sad. I think I'll leave this up. Basically, if you're watching, after the fact, I was supposed to have an interview with someone in the next 45 minutes, and I was hoping to have it uploaded tomorrow. Regarding, Iran, Palestine, Israel, the US. Maybe I won't mention the name, but it's been rescheduled for this time next week. And I've just struggled to sort of get people on. There are approximately, well, no. So I have one person who I kind of booked for today. I don't know, agreed with to do it today. That's been postponed to next week, same time next week. It's a journalist in Israel, actually. And then there's another guy as well who's UK based, a dual national, I believe, British Israeli, but UK based, and I've been liaising with him, but he's quite busy. But that's potentially at any point. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just waiting for an email back. And there's another guy who's also London based, and he got back to me and he said to basically email him early May, and he should have some time. So the interview next week with the Israeli guy is online, basically, and the other two interviews hopefully will be in person. I much prefer it in person. And then there's also someone sent me, grateful. I'm grateful for it. Someone sent me Rabbi Ilhan Beck's phone number with his, blessing or permission. And so I actually need to get in contact with him, just give him a call. And, he said to the intermediary that he'd be happy to have a conversation. So I need to get in touch with him and arrange something. And that will likely be in London in person as well. So, yeah, I live in Manchester, so a few trips down to London maybe, but it's just been difficult to, to kind of, get people on, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what why it's been the way it has been, unfortunately. I thought after the Finkelstein interview and Rabbi Yaakov and stuff, the ball was kind of going, but it's been a bit hit and miss in terms of getting people on. And, I don't really want to get just like random people on, I guess. I see a lot of channels, no sort of, disrespect to them or anything like that. It's just not the way I want to go about things. I don't want to do like an interview every 5 days or 2 a week or, whatever the case is. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't ever want to be underprepared, and I don't want to just come out with the same stuff, because this, I follow this stuff quite a bit and I listen to others quite a bit, and I just find people just regurgitate the same stuff. I first sort of emailed Professor Finkelstein and a few others because I really enjoyed listening to their sort of analysis and stuff, but I was sick of hearing sort of interviewers just ask the same boring stuff. Not boring, but like just repetitive, surface level. And so I do not want to become kind of like that. But what that means in practice is you need to do a decent amount of preparation for each interview, and you also need to have someone on who knows what they're talking about, and also you as the interviewer, in my experience, I feel you need to have an understanding of where their expertise lies. So there's no point getting, I'll use Professor Finkelstein as an example. There's no point getting him on, in my opinion, and asking him about, the military aspect of things. He said stuff that I don't agree with. For example, I don't think is correct or accurate, but he readily admits, this is not his area of expertise. So my point really, all I'm saying is, I think for a good interview, you have to have a good, interviewee, or like individual that you're going to discuss and ask questions with. It's a mixture of an interview and a conversation, I guess, because there are pushbacks and whatnot. Which is another thing, going off maybe on a tangent here, but that's another thing. I just really got irritated with people being really just agreeing with stuff and blah blah blah, and not that you need to be disagreeable necessarily, but you need to challenge what's being said as well. But you can't do that if you're inadequately prepared. So you have to understand the subject matter, and you have to have a good grounding, I think. And so, for example, one of the guys that I'm hopefully going to get on, he mentioned maybe he'll have time in May, and to get in touch with him in May. He has a few weeks free, he said. He's a sort of regional expert on the Gulf states, and that's something, or that sort of area is something where I'm a bit more green. I don't know enough. And so an interview like that, I need to, I'm not there yet, I guess. Oh crap, I didn't realize there's a comment, sorry. Yeah, wa alaikum assalam, bro, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see, I thought I turned this on, but it was in a previous stream. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know how much of that ramble people have heard. I think people are dropping in and out and whatnot. I haven't really uploaded to this channel for a while. But yeah, if you've caught most of what I'm saying there, or if you're watching this back, that's basically why I haven't had many uploads, I guess. But I also need to hold myself accountable. I also haven't, I've also kind of let myself down a bit as well on my end. So there's that too. That's probably more of a personal thing though, that I need to check. But yeah, if you guys have people that you are if you guys know people who you think would be like a good interviewee or interlocutor or guest or whatever terminology you want to use, let me know. Because to reiterate what I'm saying for those who have just joined, it's been difficult to get a hold of people, and sort of one, to get a reply even sometimes via email, and two, to like arrange stuff, Nord Winter. So, do you live in the UK? Yes, I do. Yeah, Manchester. I am a German Muslim. I want to immigrate to the UK. Would you recommend to immigrate to the UK and to leave Germany? Brother, I'm assuming, or sister, I have no idea what life is like in Germany for you. So I don't know. I can't answer that. Um, I've only lived in the UK, so it's hard for me to say. I would think it's probably a nicer experience or a more comfortable experience as a Muslim in the UK than in Germany. I would think that just from general anecdotes and what I've heard here and there, you know, but I'm not basing that on any real facts. And that's quite a serious thing, immigrating country. So yeah, I hesitate to really say that. But what is it like as a Muslim in Germany? Perhaps you can describe a bit, and then maybe we can exchange a little bit and get a better idea. Yeah. But I like the UK personally. I know it gets slated quite a bit, but I'm not a fan of the powers that be, but I think a lot of the public are. I think people are generally good people. Like, I think people generally care. I think there's often a discussion about, like, what does it mean to be British, what are British values, and all of this kind of thing, and you get maybe the far right who bring sort of religion and race and stuff into it, and then maybe you have lefties who talk about, or as a matter of fact, I can't even remember what these articles are, but, like, there are certain principles, aren't there? I can't even remember what they are, but my point, it goes. People say a whole load of things, but all I'm saying is, I think that there is a decent amount of the British public that are genuine, caring people who, if you look after them, they'll look after you. If you respect them, they'll respect you. And so I really quite. I think there's a real respectable sort of a group in the UK. I can't pinpoint it. Maybe it transcends class and stuff as well, and it's a bit of a mixture. Anyway, maybe blabbering on, but anyway, the situation in Germany is better than the situation in France. Yeah, so again, I don't really know what it's like in France, man. The closest I've been to France is Quebec in Canada. I don't think that counts. Actually, to get there, I did stop in the airport in France a few times. Actually, I have, but I don't know. Actually, I might go to France this year. Actually, possibly. So we'll see. But again, bro, I don't really know. I don't really know. I think the UK is quite amenable or amenable, whatever the word is, to Muslims. I think so. I mean, as I was saying, I feel that I sincerely do feel that for the most part the British public are honest people, and reciprocal. If you treat them well, they treat you well. I sincerely feel that, and I feel a lot of the sort of far right stuff that has definitely increased and is on the rise. And actually, there's a march today in Manchester, which is where I live and where I am right now, led by far right figures. But having been to one previously, it's on a live stream that I did on this channel actually. I spoke to people sort of who were supporting it and stuff, and a lot of them are just frustrated with things that with the economic situation and so on, and a lot of them get bundled into this far right category, and I think it's unfortunate because I think if you actually speak to them, understandably, they're quite annoyed about things. Or do not go to France, it's dangerous, really. France is a big place. Maybe certain parts of it, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I feel most of the British public are decent people and honest people. And, on the surface they might have certain groups might have certain hostilities, but I do feel for the most part, if you speak to people respectfully, and a lot of it is just propaganda, like pushed by certain groups and certain influencers, sorry, for lack of a better term, and politicians, and it's unfortunately, I think people's frustrations are being sort of funneled, or how do I word it? Yeah, I think you probably know what I mean. I'm just failing to articulate, but people are frustrated with people have genuine grievances, and they are being sort of told or like influenced in a certain direction, and if you speak to them, like this far right sort of march that I went to in person and did a live stream on my channel, most of them were kind of like, they were actually I wouldn't consider them far right. They were just frustrated with things, and they had kind of aligned themselves to perhaps a movement that I don't think is sincere and is something that I support, put it that way. But the individuals sort of within that group, within that movement, at the ground level, the average Joe, so to speak, they just kind of fed up, and they found this this avenue, or they've been presented this avenue. Kind of like perhaps the Trump voters who were sick of wars and stuff, and they thought, okay, right, this guy is anti-war, no more wars, but it's as we've seen, it was all BS, and these were people who perhaps I might not agree with on everything, you might not agree with on everything, but many of them are, I'm sure, sincere. Many of the Trump voters, I'm sure they are. I have faith in humanity in that sense, and they felt this was an avenue that would, voting for Trump is something that would sort of would deal with the issues that they were sort of sick of, the wars and so on. And obviously, Trump's obviously used and abused them, I would say. Sorry, bro. Yeah, airport people from France are very much anti-Islam. Do not go there. Yeah, I've heard that, for a long time. For example, when they banned the hijab. I'm not well read on this, so correct me if I'm wrong, right? But they banned all religious wear or something, or you can't pray in public and stuff like that. I don't know that it was specifically Islam that was targeted, but perhaps. Because can you wear a cross, for example, or a like Jewish kippah, the hat, if you're working for the state, I think it is, or in state buildings or something like that? Or can a Christian or Jewish person or Buddhist monk, can they pray in public? I don't know. I thought it applies to everyone, but perhaps it disproportionately affects Muslims. I don't know. I don't know the specifics, but I've generally not had a good impression of France. But again, I do feel, that rightly or wrongly, I do feel most people on the ground level, the general public, I feel people are sincere and honest, and if you talk to them and have a genuine conversation with them, you might disagree, they might disagree with you, but I feel you'll probably find, in my limited experience, I found that their grievances are genuine, and they don't just hate and lie, and they're not just say anti-Islam for the sake of it. Perhaps their understanding or what they've heard of Islam and so on has led them in the direction that it has. Do you know what I mean? That's from my limited experience. I hesitate to. I know you're not necessarily saying this, but I do hesitate to, even if we look at the Israel-Palestine thing, yeah. So the interview I was supposed to do today is with an Israeli who lives in Israel, who served in the IDF, as the majority of them do, who is very left-leaning now. I don't know the history well enough, but I'm just saying right now they are. And they're, you know, I think they're a genuine, sincere person, you know. And whereas there are people who have said to me, for example, as well, and generally, you know, out there are people out there who, in my position, let's say, small channel, whatever, small or big, whatever, but they will not talk to an Israeli, for example, ex-IDF, no, like, should never, these people are the worst, you know, they'll have a lot of negative stuff to say, and I can understand, you know, I can make an argument in my head, let me say, with my limited sort of understanding or whatever and experience, I can appreciate where they're coming from. You know, I can appreciate an argument of why on earth would you speak to someone who lives in Israel, who served in the IDF, you know, but at the same time, I don't really agree with kind of writing everyone off. I know that's a hard line to toe. But okay, basically, to summarize, my thing has always been, in my head, if I feel, and I could be wrong, if I feel the individual I'm speaking to or would like to speak to is sincere, will have an honest discussion, won't use BS tactics, they won't, you know, they are open and honest, whatever their view may be, they will have an open and honest discussion. For the most part, I'm willing to have that discussion. Like, I'm open to talk because I'd like to learn, even if I walk away disagreeing, you know. And so, for example, I interviewed an American Israeli called Alon Burstein. That's on my channel, and I really disagree with some of the stuff he says, but I felt, okay, at the time of the interview, I felt he was honest and sincere and that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Now I kind of find it a bit hard. I'm not saying he's lying or anything like that. I'm definitely not saying that. But I'm like, I don't know how he's saying some of the stuff he's saying, you know, or how he's like not drawing certain conclusions. I don't know. Anyway, that's one example, right? Another example I'll give is yeah. So Nord, I don't know if you heard, but I've got someone sent me Rabbi Elhan Beck's phone number, so I just need to give him a call, and to the intermediary, he said he'd be happy to set up an interview, so I'm hoping to do that. But yeah, it's good that there are also anti-Zionist Jews like Norman Finkelstein and Elhan Beck, yeah. Free Palestine, yeah. Obviously, Professor Finkelstein, he's not on the religious thing at all. His is like, you know, Jewish by race, which is a whole other discussion, isn't it? Which actually, you know, I had at length with a Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. It's like a 3-hour interview. If you guys haven't watched it, you can check it out. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay, so for example, there was another guy who I had commented on his videos. He's a rabbi, you know, he's a rabbi on YouTube, and an American Israeli, again, a pro-Zionist guy, and I commented on his videos because they used to like just piss me off, some of the stuff he says, yeah. And he sent me a few messages and DMs or email or something saying, "Yo, you know, come on, like the channel, let's do an interview, let's have a discussion." But I feel this guy is disingenuous, and so what I'm saying here is, I don't care that he's Jewish, I don't care that he's Israeli, I don't care that he's American, I don't care that he's Zionist. The reason I will not talk to someone like that is because I think he is a disingenuous liar who is intentionally, you know, he's not having an honest discussion. He's not if you were to have a discussion with him, he is not there to um, hear what you're saying, to present arguments honestly. He is there to push a certain narrative, and that's where I personally draw a line, because I don't do debates and stuff. I don't know enough to do that, I believe in kind of staying in your lane, especially when these are serious topics. People are being blown to pieces. It's not a joke. It's not something to do just for views. And this is again why I don't just come online and just talk about these things willy-nilly, yeah. I've seen the interview with you and Jakob Shapiro and normal things. Okay, cool, yeah. What did you think of them? They were a while ago now. I'm maybe thinking of reaching out and doing like a part 2 or follow-up or something, but as I say, I've just been trying to get a hold of other people. So there are like 3 or 4 people in the pipeline, but it's just been difficult, to get a date set and get things going. And then there's a concern of, if I reach out to more, and there are potentially a few others who would probably quite quickly, agree and arrange a date, there is a risk of the 4 that are already in the pipeline, if they then send me a date and that clashes with the others, and then I work full-time myself and stuff, and it's like, okay, I can't cross my wires too much, if that's the right sort of phrase, you know what I mean? Yeah, anyway, yeah. It's quite frustrating because I feel like I worked fairly hard to get this channel to where it is at, and I kind of haven't. I really don't want to do things for views and monetary value. I really, really don't want to do that, and I think thus far I've stuck to that, and I hope to stick to that, God willing, yeah. But I see other channels sometimes, and it's like they have maybe a similar following, but they've like pushed forward by kind of like doing a lot more uploads, a lot more, say, lives, a lot more interviews, but the quality is not there. And they, in my opinion, I'm being vague about this because I don't want to mention any specific names, but maybe it feels like they don't feel enough of a responsibility in terms of double checking what they're saying. Perhaps they're talking with authority on certain subjects or topics that they don't really have the authority to say, yeah. I don't know, man. I think I'm maybe tired of rambling now, but all I'm saying is I feel a responsibility, and it doesn't matter if 10 people watch or 10,000 people watch. I feel responsible for what I say, because the topic this isn't like just gaming or something that doesn't really matter. This is about as serious as it gets. We're talking about life and death for people, and as much as what I say probably has maybe no impact, or let's say I got like 100,000 views and it had a 0.01% impact or whatever on life and death for someone. Regardless, it's still serious, man. It's no joke, and I feel other channels have, maybe they don't think the same way. I don't know. Maybe I've got something wrong. I don't know, man. And so I'm not inclined to put stuff out there on this topic that isn't like serious. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of rambled there, but I don't know. Hopefully what I'm trying to say has come across. Yeah. Am I Pashtun? No, I'm not Pashtun. No, I'm not. Are you Pakistani then? I'm guessing. You said you live in Germany. But anyways, 6-7 people watching. What have you guys got any feedback for the channel? Did I put this thing out? I had this poll. Can you guys see this poll? Can you guys see? Oh, right. Maybe not. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So I've put this poll out as well. If you guys can... Oh, flipping heck, what have I done? How do I put the comments back up? Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you guys, if you don't want to put anything in the chat, that's no problem. But maybe vote on the poll. You know, I'm just trying to get an idea of what to do with things. Because the other thing I can do, which you know, is maybe an in-between, is sort of some reaction content. I hesitate to say reaction because that sounds like crap. But, you know, I do follow a lot of what's going on and a lot of commentary online. And sometimes often I just feel that some of it's just rubbish and needs calling out. So similar to what I did with Professor Finkelstein's book, you know, thoroughly reading through it and putting to him my disagreements, you know, perhaps from time to time I could do a live stream on, you know, a sort of well watched interview or debate, and perhaps just critique some of the points where I feel, you know what, that was missed and that's clearly wrong, because I do feel that happens sometimes, you know. I don't know if people would be interested in that though. I don't know, that's kind of what I'm gauging here a bit. No, I'm not from Pakistan. I am German descent, blonde. Okay, so are you like a convert revert Muslim? I'm guessing then. Okay, yeah. I just thought maybe you're Pakistani because you asked if I'm Pashtun, and I don't know how many people know what that is. Or Pashtun, I think they say as well, right? Which I believe is like majority northern Pakistan / Afghanistan. Okay, that's quite interesting. You're a revert, yeah? Okay, I do know a few reverts, interestingly enough. So, okay, how long have you been Muslim? I'm quite curious now. I interviewed a revert guy who went to my high school and primary school. It's on my channel. It's quite an old video, you know. It's before all of this, like, interview, Palestine, Israel kind of interview stuff. You can probably find it. I mean, it's on my channel, yeah. It's called like Britain's Accepting Islam or something. I don't know, it's on my channel. He's basically an English white guy who went to my primary school and high school. So, you know, from, well, I don't know, whatever, but till like 16 odd, you know. Oh, wow, okay. Since September 2019. Okay. I was at the end of 13 at this time. Okay, so you're like almost 14 years old. Wow, okay, so you were quite young, yeah. Okay. Right, yeah. So what are you, like 20, 21 now? You know, 13, 14 is very young, I feel, to become Muslim. I've heard of one other person called Muhammad Tim Humble. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's an English revert to Islam, and he became Muslim at like 13 or 14. I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm going to guess you have. I don't know though, but maybe similar. So what brought you to Islam? You know, at such a young age as well, in Germany. That sounds pretty cool. Like, that sounds like potentially an interesting story. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's voted or they haven't voted on this chat. I mean, on this what is it called? On this poll, by the way. Nord, have you voted on this poll, for example? I don't want to stop the poll because I'd like to just leave it till the end, maybe. But I don't know if people have voted, and I just don't know. I don't know. A bit of a noob, I think, with this. But yeah, for anyone sort of just joining or whatnot, I was just saying I've got an interview. It was booked for right now, actually. Oh well, it was booked for in 12 minutes time. You know, and I had prepared for it and so on. And unfortunately, it's been pushed back a week, which is totally fine in terms of the interviewee, no issue with that whatsoever. But yeah, just in terms of, keeping the ball rolling a bit, I feel like I've fallen off the ball a bit, or like I've lost a bit of momentum on YouTube. Okay, yeah, cool, yeah, so you did click the thing. Alright, so maybe people have then, I just don't know. I don't want to click stop just yet because I'd like to get a decent portion of people, a decent sample size, but we'll have to see how many people join and stuff. So what brought you to Islam? I'm just curious, at 13, 14, so you're in high school. Did you have family members or something that became Muslim? And also, so I'm guessing you sort of have followed the Palestine-Israel situation. Did becoming Muslim influence that quite heavily? Because I feel, again, in my limited, kind of listening to things, maybe people quite quickly become very pro-Palestinian, so to speak. Kavioko, if anyone remembers that reference, after becoming Muslim, which is kind of fair enough, I guess, but it does make me wonder how read into the facts are people, and how much of it is sort of a bit of an internal bias. That being said, sorry, since October 7th, and certainly, in the last year or two, you don't really need to be well read in, to see the death and destruction and take a position that this is inhumane, this is definitely not right, So, yeah. Yeah, guys, hit vote on this poll if you can for me, just to give me a bit of an insight. And I guess if you are interested in like a weekly live stream, then what would you like to see? Like, what are you interested in? Q&A, I don't know about that. I put that in the title just for this particular one, right? Just because I kind of it's really me asking you questions, to be honest. But in terms of Q&A, is usually the subscribers or viewers ask questions, and the the YouTuber person talking answers questions. But I'm not like a source of knowledge or anything, so I probably don't have any answers for you guys, but yeah, I mean, like, I could do some, like, what I was thinking in terms of weekly live streams is I feel similar to the Professor Finkelstein interview, where I did like a decent breakdown, I feel, of his book. I can do breakdowns of other interviews online, like where they've got a lot of views, for example, in the hundreds of thousands, and let's say I feel there is something that's totally being missed or misportrayed or whatnot. I feel there's benefit in then tackling that issue, or pointing out what I feel is wrong there. And I can check myself in terms of make sure that I'm not talking out of my backside, so to speak. Sorry to use that sort of phrase, but or talking rubbish or without understanding. So I can do that vetting myself. But I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in. Okay, so for example, an example of that would be, now this wasn't a live stream, but it was the breakdown I did of the trigonometry interview. I don't know if any of you guys watching now, if anyone sort of watched that. It took me so long to edit. Yeah. Part of that is because of my, I okay, I'm using the word OCD, kind of loosely. It is actually a formal diagnosis that people get, so I don't want to like take away, I don't want to detract from that. But like I don't know the right word to use, but just being well over the top and like putting so much effort into editing bits that a viewer, if you watched it, you wouldn't even notice. So part of it's my own fault, really, is what I'm saying. But I did put a lot of effort into that, and as much as I'm not doing this for views primarily, this is not primarily for views or ad revenue and that kind of thing, I also can't put 50 hours into this and get absolutely nothing back, because I have a full-time job. I have a family. I need something in return, such that it's worth doing. Do you know what I mean? For example, if a critical analysis, right, of a video of an interview that, let's say the initial interviews received like 1 million views, and let's say my analysis of it receives 100,000 views. If that took me 10 hours in a week and I didn't get any money from it, I would do it on this subject matter. Sincerely, God is my witness, I would do it because I think the benefit isn't obviously monetary in that example. I'm not, in this example, I'm not receiving any money. However, it's a serious topic, number one. Number two, it's an interview, their interview, let's say, whatever the case may be, the subject interview, right, has received a hell of a lot of views. In this example, 1 million. Meaning, and as a result of that, it's likely influenced the minds of a lot of people, right? And therefore, if I feel there's something that is untrue there or seriously missed and I can correct, and if I then go about doing that in a video and that video receives a decent amount of views, it's even 10k or whatever, right? Even if that doesn't produce 1 penny for me, it's worth me, I feel it's worth me putting the time and effort in, right? Because the subject matter in this example, life and death, world conflict, it's worth me putting time into. Do you know what I mean? It's not about money. As great as that would be to get a load of money from it, it's not really about money. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm rambling on, but I don't know if it's kind of coherent what I'm trying to say. But yeah, anyway, all I'm saying, is back to kind of what I was saying is, I did a breakdown of, actually, let's just have a quick look how many views, like an example of what I've just said where I did do something like that was a breakdown of this trigonometry podcast. People have probably heard of it. So I did a breakdown of a trigonometry podcast. Maybe shall I share my screen? Maybe. Yeah, let's share screen. So how do you do that? So add a present. Yeah, just bear with me 1 second, guys. I'll just share what I'm talking about. So share tab audio, yeah. Entire screen or window. Not tab, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. So here is an example of an interview that I did. Yeah. Oh, what am I on about? Sorry, guys, I'm just rambling in it because I'm thinking about other things. Okay, so here's an example of like a breakdown that I did. I'll just mute it and play it, yeah? So I did this breakdown where I went through stuff that I think is just rubbish that these guys are saying. You know, I think it was just like some of the stuff these trigonometry guys were coming out with. I kind of watched it and I felt like, you know what, this is such crap. Some of this is such crap, right? And it pees me off that they are sort of saying this stuff, and Dave, what's his name? Dave Chappelle. It's not Dave Chappelle, is it? Dave Smith. Sorry, Dave Smith. You know, I think he's knows way more than me, and he's pretty good on this issue. He didn't come back with the responses to these trigonometry guys. He insufficiently responded to some of what they were saying, and kind of let them come out with some of the crap that they often do come out with, like the Islamists and this and that, this rubbish that they're coming out with. Anyway, so point being, let me just quickly check how many views these guys actually got, right? So Trigger Pod, yeah. Hold on. 1 second, I'll just search in a different tab. So trigonometry and Dave, yeah, Dave Smith, yeah. Dave Smith, okay. Right. So I'm just looking at it now, yeah. Can I quickly share this tab instead? Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, yeah. So for example, so this interview that they did with Dave Smith, right? It received in the last 5 months 891,000 views. So basically 900,000, not far off 1 million views, right? Now I watched this interview, and sorry, Nord, I'm not ignoring you, by the way. Please ask Ilhan Beck new questions. Nord, one of the things that I'd like you to hold me to, yeah, if you continue to sort of subscribe and view my videos, yeah. If I ever do an interview and I don't ask new questions, or rather, if I ask the same questions at the same level, if I'm not bringing anything new to the table, new and useful or interesting or informative with my interviews, call me out, because the last thing I want to do is speak to someone and just have the same old conversation that they had with 10 other people, because it's not worth their time first and foremost, because most of these people are like very qualified, very busy, you know, and so far everyone's doing it for free. No one's asked me for any money, yeah. And so I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste your time as viewers, and I certainly don't want to waste my own time either. So if I'm, you know, if the interview that I do, or if interviews that I do going forward are not actually informative and are not really bringing anything useful to the table, then call me out on that. And you've already subscribed, I appreciate that. But, you know, I want you to hold me to that standard, yeah? So to my point, what I was saying is, as an example, this interview here, can you guys see that, yeah? It got, you know, 900,000 views, yeah? Did I comment on it? Oh yeah, I did, okay. So I commented saying, according to the Times of Israel, 50 of the 764 civilians killed were 19 or younger, which is around 6.5%. 2 infants, 12 children under the age of 10, 36 civilians aged 10 to 16. 6.5% seems fairly low if you are intentionally targeting children, and also that doesn't factor in those killed by Israel's actions. So let's just play what they were saying.
The Western allies respond. Would you agree? There is a difference. They both result in people being killed, but there is a difference, because it's about the conduct and
All right, hold on,
who
guys.
Hamas's attack, there certainly is a difference between like the primitive nature of Hamas's attack and the barbaric nature of Hamas's attack. But at the same time, the end result of it is innocent people being.
So this is just an example of where I think, they just kind of spewed crap that was not necessarily representative, and it's something that I feel, it frustrates me listening to it anyway. So if you just listen, I guess I'll use this as an example.
Slaughtered.
I know it is.
And that is so. And if you.
But there is a difference between Nazi Germany attacking Poland and the Western Allies responding. Would you agree? There is a difference.
There's a difference.
They both result in people being killed, but there is a difference. Because it's about the conduct and who initiates that particular phase of it, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, but I think that.
So
I mean,
this is the
mean,
difference with October the 7th. This is why it's a different category of violence, in my opinion. Because you've got a situation where a band of terrorists deliberately invade another place, and they don't attack. I mean, sure, they attack some
They killed a bunch of IDF people.
They attack some IDF facilities, but really, it's about taking Israelis hostage, raping them, killing women, killing children, dragging them off to the dungeons and holding them there for power. That's not the same as what the IDF is doing. Would you accept that?
No, I don't really think that's right. I mean, again, I think there's, if it makes sense, I just like to use like an example. It's almost like, you could say like, like Eastern European countries.
So Dave Smith's response, is fine or whatever. You guys can check it out yourself. But he in this example, he allowed, unfortunately, this. I don't want to use a profanity, but this, item, on the right hand side of your screen, to spew crap, right? The comment that I read out, because I just wrote this in my frustration watching it, right? It's not something I intended to share with you guys or anything, but actually, if you're going to say that they targeted children, for example, approximately 6.5% of those of Israel of the people killed who weren't Palestinian, approximately 6.5% were children, and that's under the age of 19 or 19 and younger, right? That's according to the Times of Israel, right? Now that is an important piece of evidence to state when someone like this guy on the right, this Trig guy, yeah, Constantine, whatever his name is, yeah, when he's spewing this crap, right, it really frustrates me when there is, and okay, this isn't a criticism, and I'm kind of going all over. This isn't a criticism whatsoever of Dave Smith. This is just me saying, here's an example of a video that has 900,000 views, and this guy has been able to spew crap to 900,000 people potentially. And I'm sat here, as many of you are too, I'm sure, and I'm thinking, why? Unfortunately, like, I wish I could jump in the screen right now and say, you are saying that they targeted children. The Times of Israel, right, which is not going to be pro-Hamas, obviously, it's a right-wing Israeli paper. They, according to them, around 6.5% of those killed on October 7th, right, were 19 and younger. That there is sufficient evidence that they did not, that the whatever you want to call it, Tufan al-Aqsa, whatever you want to call it, the assault, the terrorism, whatever you want to call it, clearly the goal, one of the primary goals was not targeting children. 6.5%, and I spoke to some of you guys might have seen Shael Benafrin, I can never get it right, and that's a stat I sort of shared with him in the interview, and he said he agreed basically clearly. The goal wasn't to target children basically, and and actually I might be mistaking things slightly. I think he might have said clearly the goal wasn't grape, basically, which is another topic that, you know. Anyway, my point being, if you I don't know how people are dropping in and out, but what I'm saying is what I did in this video here, which wasn't a live video. Where's it gone now? What I did in this video here, share this tab instead, was basically give a pretty thorough breakdown of where I think these trigger guys, right, have come out with crap. And, you know, unfortunately, Dave Smith has insufficiently, again, not a criticism of Dave Smith. I don't think that I could do a better job, certainly not in the moment. But sitting in comfort with time at my desk, I can perhaps point out some of the BS that has been allowed to come through in this interview, for example, or debate, whatever you want to call it. And I feel frustration and let's just, you know, and I would literally do it for free. Like, I don't care about monetization if it means that I'm able to point out definitive flaws, factual flaws, and potentially, you know, disingenuity on the part of the interviewers, on part of the interviewers. I feel if it means correcting, if it means that I'm able to honestly, sincerely, and, you know, sufficiently, I guess, influence public opinion and those that are viewing this content in the right direction. If you open up the comment section, it's open. What do you mean open up the comment section? I'm not going to repeat what you said, but what do you mean open up the comment section? You just commented. Is it like a moderation thing? I mean, I don't mind if you want to say what you want, but I don't know if this kids is the only thing, you know, sort of watching with your comments there. Anyway, so I kind of rambled a lot there, didn't I? But yeah. I think Nord, I'm guessing you're probably still listening. Did you hear all of that, and what do you think of it? And obviously anyone else who's listening, you know, I'm really just doing this live stream partly because I was supposed to do an interview right at this very moment, and unfortunately it got pushed back to next week. So I'll be doing that next week, and then maybe take a couple of days to edit, and I'll have that out. It should be a good hour, an hour and a half maybe. It should be a good discussion, that. But yeah, so in place of that, I thought, you know what, let me do a live stream, and let me also just see how many people join, see what people's opinions are, what they think, and kind of try and catch up to the people who subscribed or otherwise, and who have watched my previous videos, and see what you guys think of things, and what you'd like to see, and kind of just bounce off each other a little bit, which we've been able to do to some extent. Yeah. So what do you guys think? I guess, you know, if you've heard everything I said in the last maybe 5 minutes. So this trigonometry video was just an example. Yeah, so anyway, maybe I missed this slightly, but to round off what I was saying, there is the breakdown I did of it is like an hour long, and it got 149 views, which, as I say, it's not about views necessarily, right? Because I feel I'm doing something sincerely, and I do feel I'm bringing some value there, right? And I'm correcting certain things that are genuinely wrong, and these things that have been said that are genuinely wrong, I feel, and I have a critique, a factual critique for, their videos received almost 1 million views, and they've been able to say this. If my critique of it, my responsible factual critique of it, if it was to receive a similar, not even a similar, if it was to receive 10,000, 50,000 views, so some of those 900,000 who watched their video and were influenced by it, if some of them, if a decent portion of them watched my video and at least were presented with some of the pushback that I feel is factual and honest, yeah. If that was to take place, right? Let's say they get 1 million views, I get 50k, and I received £0 and pence for it. I'm fine with that. This is all I'm saying. Like, I'm fine with that, honestly, genuinely I am, because it's worth me putting the time and effort in, because this is a serious issue. People are saying stuff that is not true, is inaccurate, and they're saying it to a massive audience. I'm happy to give up 10 hours a week to correct that, to push back at that, to provide that same audience with counterfacts and critique of what these guys are saying that is inaccurate and dishonest. I feel I'm happy to give up, a day a week, 10 hours a week for free, is all I'm saying. But, unfortunately, like that video, for example, it's got like 150 views. So the reason I haven't done more of that is because I'm thinking, okay, I need to think about how much effort I'm putting in and what is it, what's coming back from it. Money, that's one thing, because then I can take more time off my job, my main job, and I can put more time into this and create more, not for the sake of it, but with a serious goal in mind, with actual, with the responsibility at the forefront of my decision making, yeah. Let's say no money, is it actually influencing the wider discourse? Is it a good counterbalance? That's probably the best way of phrasing it. Is it a good counterbalance? If so, again, I'll do it. I'll do it for free if it's receiving an audience and equipping an audience with counterfactuals to this crap that they come out with. At the moment, it's neither. So that's basically me rambling and saying, what are you guys interested in, I guess, and just on the last few comments, sorry, I just didn't want to lose track of what I was saying. Okay, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है? I don't really speak Urdu, to be honest. I can understand it at a basic level. So like, what is my name? My name's Omar or Umar or, whichever really. But I don't really speak Urdu. I can understand it at a basic level. And yeah, and Free Kashmir agreed, Your thoughts on Greater Israel? Yeah, it's a very broad question. My thoughts on Greater Israel are not obviously, but look, I'm quite reluctant to draw conclusions and say things categorically. I think anyway, call me up on that if you feel otherwise. And so I don't feel there's this huge grand master plan with the whole of Israeli society and all of the politicians Israel and all the Zionists in the US and all of this and that. I'm not well read in on it either, but look, just as a layman and knowing what I know, and you can gauge that from, I guess, the interviews I've done, and on top of that, just general stuff I listen to and whatnot, right? I feel there is a big cohort of like religious hardcore Zionists, Christians and Jewish, who have this greater Israel project in mind, you know. But I don't think the majority do, you know what I mean? I could be totally wrong, but you're asking me basically, and I'm saying in my limited capacity that I don't think the majority of pro-Israelis, be it in Israel or outside, I don't think the majority of them are thinking about the quote-unquote biblical right to create Israel. The thing is as well, I found, and you know, let me know exactly what you're referring to here at Disciplined Billionaires. When you say Greater Israel, are you referring to Israel that includes, the West Bank and Gaza? Because I feel some people say that. Some people, when they say Greater Israel, this might be my mistake, but I feel like they're just referring to like from the river to the sea, you know, historic Palestine. Whereas my understanding is Greater Israel, and often, you know, many are referring to it as what they claim as the biblical right, which is like the Euphrates River down to the River Nile, you know, and that includes, you know, like all of Lebanon, large part of like even Saudi Arabia, Iraq, you know, it's Egypt, like a huge landmass. That's Greater Israel. That's the Greater Israel sort of concept or landmass, right? But I think some people say Greater Israel and they're referring to, you know, the current national, you know, UN recognized state of Israel plus Gaza plus the West Bank. So I don't know which one you're referring to. Is a long way of saying that. Toxic Angel, Benjamin's gonna get you. Benjamin Netanyahu tonight. What's up? Maybe the Israelis took over. I don't know if you can say that word anyway, but yeah, ZI, Germany, the way they are taking over America. I mean, they're not really taking over America though, are they? Do you know what I mean? They're not. I don't know, man. I don't really think they're taking over America. So since it's okay to take Israel from Palestine, does that mean Native Americans can take America back? Well, I'm not quite getting what you mean. Because have I read that backwards or have you said it backwards? Palantir, JD Vans, yeah, you gotta check it out, bro. Okay, Palantir, right? Okay, yeah, Vivek, there is a ton there. Oh wait. Yeah. JD Vans, you think he's like what are you saying? If we take JD Vans as an example, what exactly are you saying? You think Israelis are taking over America? I'm guessing you mean Jews by that. I don't know. But I don't really believe that stuff, to be honest with you. I don't, you know, obviously you can't freely say these things if you believe them online, and in the UK you can't, in terms of like you'd probably get in legal trouble if someone sued you. But I guess luckily for me, I don't actually believe them, so I don't have to like censor myself like you know, people who say like, oh, Jews control the world and stuff. Like I genuinely, I'm just not convinced by that kind of thing. I don't think like Zionists run the world. Like I just don't believe this stuff. I just don't believe. Hopefully this doesn't mess up my YouTube or anything. But like if I did believe these theories, right, I, you know, Well, I certainly wouldn't say that I don't, and I would probably like maybe loosely allude to them or indirectly kind of like beat around the bush. Do you know what I mean? Online in a video like this or whatever. But I actually just don't even believe them. Like, I just don't think it's true, man. I think there's a huge amount of influence on the US from the pro-Israelis, the Zionists, you know, Christians and Jews. And as far as I'm aware, the Christian Zionists are way more in number compared to the Jewish Zionists. So if you're going to say Jews, I would say if you want to talk about religion, it's actually more Christians, to be honest, that support Israel than Jews. So I'm not trying to I'm not even trying to be politically correct or anything or censor myself. As I say, I just don't think the facts add up, and to these sort of, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but I do feel like they're a bit like, they're not really grounded in serious fact. And I could be wrong, and tell me if I'm wrong, you know, but I don't believe I'm wrong in that, and that's why I'm just not convinced by these arguments. Yeah, I've missed a few comments, sorry about that. I'm just conscious to not to lose track of what I'm saying. Yeah, free Palestina indeed, bro. Well, you can be oblivious. You can be oblivious to the connections I'm talking about. Does not mean they are subjective. Yeah, but present me with like the argument. Then present me with like, tell me, tell me where I'm wrong, because I'd like to know what the truth is, regardless. Even if I have to like not say it online and just say it in secret and in private, I'd like to know what's true. But I just don't believe those kind of things are true, to be honest. Anyway, some people don't believe a fetus abortion is alive, right? But it is not. Is alive, right? But it is not alive. It is not objectively alive. I think I know what you're trying to say, but maybe it's not worded right. Yeah. Well, there is some connections going on in Ohio, and it has nothing to do with religion. It is internationalism. Okay, what do you mean? Like, expand on it. No, what you're saying, Alhamdulillah, I've won twice by the grace of Allah. I'm so happy because of this. What is that? What are you referring to? What are you referring to there? I don't know. And maybe I missed something. But yeah, Allahumma barik, happy for you, bro. Okay, you do not even know what I'm talking about, so how would you know if they are grounded? So, bro, tell me, innit? That's funny. You just have to look into the situation in Ohio and the military-industrial complex. So tell me, brother, because you're saying a lot of different things here. Well, you're just throwing a few things out there and you're not really like putting it together. Treat me as an idiot, because in some regards, that can be said at times. So tell me, I'm just saying, like, look, the burden of proof is on the claimant, right? So if you're saying, that a certain group run the world, right? I'm actually trying to be careful about saying this now, just because I don't know how it works with YouTube. But what I'm saying is, I sincerely don't buy that argument. I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's true. Like, secret groups and this and that, like, the Illuma, whatever, and like free whatever, and like, and I just don't believe that these lot all run the world. You know what I mean? What's the evidence? I just don't. As I say, like, the majority of Zionists, as far as I'm aware, are Christian. So then, how can you say that it's like Jews mostly? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. Natori Carter is anti-Zionist. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And Rabbi Ilhan Beck, who, I don't know if you guys sort of missed it or whatever, or if you're interested, but someone kindly sort of forwarded me his number with his permission, and I need to arrange it, but hopefully that should go ahead in the next few weeks in person, hopefully. And in hopefully a long form interview with Rabbi Ilhan Beck. And what I'm really going to try and do with that interview is, because I've listened to a number of his, and I do feel like they're quite repetitive, and so I do want to go a bit deeper into certain things with him, and that requires a lot of preparation, so we'll see. And Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro is not from the Natura Carta, no, definitely not. He's not, no. Sorry, toxic, yeah. So no, I just mentioned it. You applied the null, so the burden of falsification is on you. I mean, it's not how court systems work, but it is the scientific method. Dude, only about 11% of Jews or Israelis are religious. So to assume it has anything to do with religion, but religion is often used by secular ruling class. It is interesting how often the ground fighters are religious. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by you applied the null, so the burden of falsification is on you. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, interview with Ilhan Beck. Yeah. I need to. I just need to call him. I need to call him, and it comes to mind on Saturdays, and obviously Saturdays. I mean, he hasn't explicitly said or anything, or no one's told me, but from my conversations with and in preparation for the interview with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, they don't take email. They won't reply to emails and calls and stuff on Saturdays because it's a Sabbath. So when I'm free on a Saturday and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I need to follow up on things, that's actually one that I can't follow up on, but I'll just do it tomorrow. I need to just do it tomorrow on a Sunday. Yeah, court systems apply the burden of proof on the claimant, while the scientific method applies it differently. Okay, bro, look. Without getting all into this, yeah, you claimed, right, and I don't want to get, it's pretty vast. Okay, sorry. Complex in Ohio, I'm guessing, but you'll have to look into that on your own, or I may email you the information. Yeah, man, email me the information. Yeah, no problem with the caps. It's pretty vast. Okay, email me the information. So what you're, saying is that Israelis are taking over America. So I just think that's a bit crazy to say. So email me the information by all means, yeah. Will you'll find it interesting, I'm sure. Yeah, I'll give it a read, man. I'll give it a read. I think my email's on my channel, but anyway, maybe I should wrap this up. Should I wrap this up? Is there anything you guys want to say, or just thinking, is there anything I've missed? I said they have a ton of power and powerful players backing them out of Ohio. The Palmer Lucky's weapon company. Okay, I don't disagree that the sort of pro-Israel lobby or whatever has a huge amount of influence in the US. I'm definitely not saying otherwise. I haven't read it, but I'm sure you lot are all aware of, or about of Professor John Mersheimer. I believe he teaches at Chicago University. Yeah, he wrote a book, didn't he, with another guy? Can't remember his name now. On the Israeli lobby, basically. Yeah, and I wonder if it's dated and if he's going to make an updated version or not. I don't know. That's someone I'd like to interview. Actually, that is really someone I'd like to interview. I was thinking maybe if I go to New York again, I was thinking about going this year, but I think it's going to be difficult to do a follow-up with Professor Finkelstein. Also do a follow-up. Okay, I'm sidetracking, but I was thinking this year of going to New York again, doing a follow-up or an additional, I guess it would be an additional interview with Professor Finkelstein in person, obviously. A follow-up interview with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, because I feel like the interview I did with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, I actually did that the same day that I did the interview with Professor Norman Finkelstein. And as you can imagine, like 2 hours of like an intense interview with Professor Finkelstein, you know, sort of midday, and then I hadn't eaten or anything. I pretty much got a taxi straight to Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro's house, and you know, I was quite tired and so hungry, and it's not an excuse, and it was a 3-hour conversation, but I just feel like I didn't like, I feel like I could have given a lot of more pushback, not for the sake of pushback, but like genuine pushback. And so I was thinking maybe if I go to New York again, I could do, as I say, an interview with Professor Finkelstein, who I'm like 90% sure would be happy to do that, and then a follow-up one with Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro. And also I asked Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro if he would be willing to sort of take me around the Jewish areas in New York and almost do like a long form vlog style video, because he mentioned, if you guys have watched it, he mentioned that there are, okay, I'm going off memory here, he said something like there are beautiful Jewish communities who are very insular and they only speak Yiddish or something at home. And I know there have been a few like YouTubers and that who have kind of gone around these areas in the last few months or 6 months. And you know, I don't know, man. I don't know if you guys know what I'm referring to here exactly, but I don't know if they've been sincere in the way they've done it. But anyway, before they did that, I had already proposed to Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, like, if I come this year, would you be willing to take me around to these areas that you mentioned? And he basically said, just let me know if you're like in town, like if you're coming, which I'm guessing means, yeah, if you're around, we can arrange something. So anyway, I was thinking of doing that, but we'll have to see, you know. It's quite expensive going to New York, to be honest, especially for like just a couple of videos, unless the videos do well and then they can pay for themselves. But on the comments, ask Ilham Beck what life in Germany was like before H, according to his grandparents. Okay, yeah, you know what, I'll actually write that one down just as a general note. Didn't Germany have problems in the First World War? I don't know much about World War II. Well, after the First World War, yeah, I'm not like well versed in the wars and all of that either. After the First World War, as far as I'm aware, the Germany was like economically really put in a corner, you know. It was really I don't know if sanctioned is the right word or not, but basically really, a lot of pressure was put on them economically, so they had that problem post World War One. And I believe some argue that's kind of what led to the sort of rise of H, and because people were struggling economically and people were really stressed out with all of this kind of stuff, and they turned to like a seemingly charismatic, outspoken guy who pointed at a group and said, there's the problem and you're suffering. And I don't know if anyone's been listening kind of from the start. I can't believe it's almost been an hour and a half, but I was talking about the UK. I was asked about it, what it's like for Muslims, and And I feel like there's a similar thing here, possibly, where the UK, the average bloke, average person is struggling financially, and certain individuals are using that suffering and directing speech to those people who are suffering and pointing the finger at, say, immigrants or Muslims in the UK at the moment. Whereas I don't think. Look, I think there are immigration problems. I think there are, but I don't think the average, whoever lives on a council estate in the UK, like a low earning person in the UK, I don't think that individual's financial problems are primarily down to Muslims and immigration. I don't think so. And that's kind of similar, maybe, sounds like a busy week, bro. Yeah, I mean, it would be if it went ahead. Is that the YouTuber who said that all the men were making their wives pay the bills? I think he did say, there's a few of them, and one of them did say that their wives work while they study. Maybe that's the guy. Do I need to put these like on screen? Because I don't know if you guys can see them or not. But anyway, Yakov Shapiro is anti-Zionist but not Notori Carter. What is the opinion difference? Okay, so Nord Winter, yeah, have you actually watched the interview then that I did with him? Because I believe it's addressed in there. Now, obviously, I haven't. It's not obvious, but I haven't watched it, and it's been like a year. But I do recall him answering that question. But it might have been in email correspondence since then, so I don't know. But basically, I can't give a all-encompassing sort of the information on this. All I know, in simple terms, is that someone like Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, he's not Notori Carter. He is anti-Zionist. I don't know exactly what group he would consider himself, if he would consider himself part of a group or not. I'm not sure. I did ask him about that. I'm not too sure. But the Notori Carter, basically, my understanding is, what you will see is, when you see groups, actually this is actually what Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro told me. When you see Orthodox-looking Jews at protests with Palestinian flags, like 95% or whatever of the time, okay, I could be wrong on that, those are going to be Notori Carter, yeah, which I think it means guardians of the, is it Torah? I think so. Notori Carter, I think it means guardians of the Torah. I'll double check. But basically, the Notori Carter, they're Orthodox Jews, so they look like Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, for example. They're all like similar, for us non-Jews, what we see. To me, it looks similar. But Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro doesn't. He thinks Israel and him. This is what he was saying in the interview, from memory here. If Israel and him have nothing to do with each other. His whole thing is, Israel does not represent Jews. Why should I Israel is as related to me as China or whatever, right? So that's that. Why am I going to, something like that? I don't want to kind of misportray what he would say or his position. I'd have to double check. Whereas the Notori Carter, they will actively go out their way, for example, in protests with like Palestinian flags, and they will actively go to pro-Palestinian demonstrations, and they talk about Palestine should be for the Palestinians and that kind of thing. Whereas I think Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, you know, I wouldn't consider him pro-Palestinian. I think he cares about like human rights and is against like, you know, the bombing and all of that. I think he's not like, he doesn't necessarily support one like nation state. I could be speaking out of term here, like I could be maybe getting it a bit wrong. I don't think I am, but he just sees it as a conflict basically, where terrible things are happening. Do you know what I mean? And obviously he thinks it's what they're doing is immoral and all of that. But you're not going to see him with the Palestine flag saying "Free Palestine," basically. Do you know what I mean? He just wants Israel to stop claiming that it represents Jews, because he's a Jew and they don't represent him. He would say that. And he doesn't, he thinks the killing and all of that is bad and it's immoral and it shouldn't happen. I think have I sufficiently explained that? I think so, hopefully. Probably not a good question. It is insane humanity has not worked out the war nonsense yet. I don't think we will ever grow beyond it. You know what, man? There's nothing I can say on that. What can you say, man? Unless AI forces us. I don't know. I'm kind of going off topic a bit here, but I don't know if you guys listen to Joe Rogan. Yeah, probably some of you do. But that guy just goes on about AI, doesn't he? I mean, anyway. I did not know that there are Jews, I mean, I think you can say Jews, right, that fly the H flag or Palestinian flag. Okay, I don't think they fly the H flag. I mean, in the UK, you'd get arrested for doing that. Yeah, pretty damn certain of that. So I'm talking about the UK now. I don't know about other countries. But in the UK, I'm like pretty damn certain they would not fly the H flag. The Palestinian flag, definitely. And Toxic Angel on that. Not to be patronizing, but I'm a bit surprised you didn't know that, for example, it's generally, as far as I'm aware, in terms of religious Jews, I'm not talking, let me just caveat everything I've just said regarding Notorious Carter, Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, Rabbi Ilhan Beck. This, sort of discussion, this part of the discussion or commentary was based on a question that was about Orthodox Jews, or rabbis and so on. And so I'm talking about the religious. So if you're talking about someone like, say, Professor Finkelstein, his parents, I know there's a whole discussion point, but basically he's considered Jewish. So I'm not talking about someone like him when I say a Jew who flies a Palestine flag. When it comes to religious Orthodox Jews, those that fly a Palestine flag, they're like, I'm pretty certain they're almost always Notorious Carter, which Rabbi Ilhan Beck is Notorious Carter, yeah. Yes, I have watched some anti-Zionist Jews do not visit Iranian government like Notorious Carter. Some anti-Zionist Jews do not visit Iranian government like Notorious Carter. So, are you saying, I don't know if I'm just like out of it or if it's the comments sometimes, but what you're saying, so some anti-Zionist Jews do not visit the Iranian court. So are you saying Notorious Carter do visit the Iranian government? Because, I don't know about physically visit, but I do recall Rabbi Ilhan Beck, who hopefully I'm hoping to interview for anyone just joining in a few weeks. I need to just get in contact with him, if someone sent me his number with his permission. I recall him saying that he and others were part of a conference call, like a Zoom call, with Ismail Haniyeh at the time, and they spoke about how Ismail said, to the Rabbi Ilhan Beck and so on, paraphrasing that, when once Palestine is free and that kind of thing, we will you'll be the first people we give passports and so on. and I think Rabbi Ilhan Beck's reason for saying this was that the H organization is not anti-Jew, basically, yeah. But the Iranian government thing, yeah. So I think some of the like secular, non-religious Jews, for example, there's a cohort of Jews by race who say they don't believe in God, they don't keep the Torah, so to speak, but they're Jewish, ethnically, culturally, and that kind of thing. Similar, basically like Professor Finkelstein, but I'm not talking about him specifically. There are Jews who are pro-Palestine like that, secular Jews, non-religious Jews, cultural, Jews by race who are pro-Palestine. Just on this comment here that you made, but they are, they are not fond or friendly with the Iranian government, So, and I'm kind of, I'm not necessarily here to take a position or whatever on that. Well, I'm not doing so right now, is all I'm saying. I want to be careful with what I say, but I'm not surprised, Yeah, and it's generally, I think it's over, the human rights issues and so on, or it's a whole other discussion, isn't it? And maybe we can discuss it if people are interested. But I probably won't talk with any. I would probably talk with little certainty, because as I say, these things are serious topics, and I'm not well read enough and confident in commenting on them. Anyway, I'm rambling, man. So back during a lot of protests, people were saying they fly H flag. Is Palestine flag the same? I assume it is. So it's just propaganda. People saying it's supporting Hamas. Toxic Angel. Just out of curiosity, how old are you? And are you based in the US? I'm just curious. Yeah, the Palestine flag is not the same flag as the H flag. No, absolutely not. It's not, man. I could fly, and actually, around where I live and stuff, people do have a Palestine flag, on their balcony, or a sticker on their car, or you do sometimes on a flagpole, but you do often see them draped from a balcony and stuff, or from a window. They have Palestine flags. That's totally fine in the UK, but the Hamas flag is a different flag. It's green with white writing, and yeah, in the UK, if you put that up, I'm certain the police would come knocking at your door. Whether you think that's right or wrong or not, whatever, I'm not commenting on that. But definitely the police will knock at your door. And so if you're saying that if you're saying, is it the same? And people were saying that H flags were being flown at pro-Palestinian protests. I've been to a few in Manchester. I've been to a few in Manchester. There's almost always a heavy police presence, and if you held up a H flag, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're getting arrested. I don't think that's lasting very long. So I'm pretty sure that is just propaganda, basically. Yeah. Many members from the Notori Carter fear that many people believe all Jews are Zionists, so they publicly declare they are anti-Zionist. Yeah, maybe that's the case. I don't know. Certainly today, in 2026, pre-October 7, 2023, one could be forgiven for not having sort of the right information, or misunderstanding or something, but there has been such a focus on things, and scrutiny of things, and debate on things. I find it hard to believe that someone who just listens a little bit, has a reasonable idea, like just a basic sort of idea of things. I find it hard to believe that there are a lot of people who think that all Jews are Zionists. Like that's pretty, like, I could be speaking out of ignorance here, but I think, like, seriously, would someone really think that? I don't know. I would be surprised by that. But yeah, I know the Notori Carta, more to your point, I think, yeah, the Notori Carta, you know, they, as far as I'm aware, they actively go out their way, and they feel, it appears to me, and I'll have to ask Rabbi Ilham Bek more so, it appears that they feel like it's a real important thing for them to do. It's like a duty upon them to publicly state and push that they are not Zionists and they are anti-Zionists, in fact. Yeah. Yeah, memory slip, no problem, bro. I'm in Ireland and there are lots of Palestine flags hanging on houses. Yeah. So is that which island are we talking about here? Just out of curiosity. You know, Ireland's an interesting one, man, because I hear some people saying that, you know, Ireland, because of its history of resistance against the British, wherever one, you know, whatever you might think of that, I don't know. I feel like I need to be careful with what I say, not because of fear or whatever, yeah, just because these are like serious topics. We're not just talking about something trivial. So anyway, that's just the standard caveat that I keep on throwing in. I've heard from certain people that in Ireland, because of the support of like the resistance against the British, naturally that same group sees what's going on in Palestine and naturally sees like a parallel struggle in Palestine against colonizer and colonized, and so it's heavily pro-Palestinian. But then I also see this, like, you know, the whole Conor McGregor thing and like the kind of right-wing nationalists get these flags out of our country and like pro-Donald Trump thing. So I might be getting things mixed up, you know. So yeah, anyway, I'm just curious. Toxic, sorry, I'm just missing. Now I was just trying to figure out if people were really flying hate flags at the universities in US during Biden admin. I've never seen a picture of it, so were they or not, I don't know. But you're talking about the US, and the US laws are different. As far as I'm aware, and I have spoken to one or two people about this, and they've said that, you know, freedom of speech in the US means, you know, you by law, by the Constitution, you have the right to say whatever you want. And actually, Professor Finkelstein it was who said, I can try and link it you if you want, if you send me like a message, I can try and share it with you. He was saying that freedom of speech extends in the US, extends as far as even like publicly calling for an insurrection or something like that. You have the right to do that verbally, like you have the right. So to hold a flag up of a quote-unquote T group, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't break the law in the US. Like another example he was giving was either the KKK or something, or some like neo-Nazi group who did like a parade through. I hope I'm not mixing this up, but it's similar anyway, ballpark, like a after post like Holocaust and that, like a Jewish sort of group or neighborhood or something like that, you know, and they were allowed to do it by law. Yeah, message me if you want and I'll try and send you a link to that. But basically what I'm saying is, from what I've heard from Professor Finkelstein and others, another guy actually I interviewed, we were talking about it so off air a bit. As far as the law goes in the US, you have the right to say what you ought to by law. You have the right to say that you support H. You should be by law you're allowed to fly a H flag or like any group's flag. What you can't do is provide material support. That's where it's breaking the law. Whereas, okay, yeah, you're saying it was the KKK that had that march, yeah, yeah. I think that is it, isn't it? The KKK, yeah. Whereas in the UK, you don't have an absolute right to freedom of speech. There are like hate laws and that kind of thing, and so in the UK, it's illegal to voice, I think it is, as far as I'm aware, like voice support or like say show a H flag, and publicly, basically, like you are actually breaking the law. But I'm rambling. But in the US case, though constitutionally they're allowed to say what they want, like we support XYZ, here's a flag, we can show the flag of XYZ. They are actually, if you do that, you can come under heavy legal pressure and face serious repercussions. And so people argue that the right of free speech isn't actually adhered to over there, like anyway, hopefully, like I've said that coherently. Yeah. It's a bias to think all Jews or all anybody believes something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not a bias, maybe, but it's like a gross generalization. But then again, if you have a group of people and you do like a wide enough sort of poll, right? And 95% they say that they support X, then I feel you can probably say that certainly you can say, oh well, the majority of Y support X. So I think you have to be careful not to beat around the bush either. Yeah. I'm in a caravan. It's in the middle of Ireland. Okay, yeah. So many countries have a history with revolting against the Brits. Well, I think many countries were under the Brits, for lack of a better term. So, rule Britannia and all of that. So, yeah. That's probably why. Yeah, you can legally fly any flag as long as you don't call for violence. Okay, sorry, toxic. You live in the US. Whereabout do you live? Just out of curiosity. Yeah. You have to be very careful what you call people to do in the US, right? Yeah. And I mean, the way they apply these laws and the way they go about policing varies from president to president and cabinet to cabinet, so it kind of depends, doesn't it? I guess even though the law might say one thing, the way they go about these things, it differs. Yeah. If someone in England says that they would like Northern Ireland to become part of Ireland and no longer the UK, what will probably happen? Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, if that's your opinion, I don't know. It's just an opinion, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about this, right? But my understanding is regarding the islands, or Northern Ireland, sort of conflict. It was the IRA that was sort of on one side, on the opposite side of the British, So perhaps if you said something like the IRA should do XYZ, perhaps you could get in trouble for that. I don't know. But generally, just for saying, Northern Ireland should be part of Ireland and no longer the UK. I can't imagine you breaking any laws by saying that. Toxic, you're saying West Coast near Portland, right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, and enforcement is definitely a different. These guys seem to. Basically, enforcement. They just do what they want. They use and manipulate laws as they wish. Like, I mean, it definitely might piss some people off for sure. I'm just about to look on the maps actually where about Portland is. Just so I can get a bit of a better idea what you say, where about you live. Okay, so all right, very north. Okay, yeah, Washington, Seattle, and that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. No, it's interesting. Oregon. Yeah. Okay, that's the state. Yeah. Wait. Oh, okay. Okay, so is it right on the border with Washington then, and Seattle? Yeah. So. Yeah, I've only visited New York in the US. That's it. And then I visited Montreal in Canada, which isn't actually that far. Portland is pretty PDX. I'm not sure what that is, but Portland is pretty much okay. So yeah, I'm not actually. You know what? I don't know what you mean there. Sorry, but okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's been a pretty good live. Maybe we should wrap it up pretty soon. And maybe I'll end this poll in a sec. But you guys seem to. I feel like you guys are probably a good sort of group to ask in terms of who are you interested in me sort of interviewing and that kind of thing. Do you guys have any suggestions basically? You seem to be like you guys kind of know what you're talking about and that kind of thing. Do you have any suggestions of who you'd like to see on the channel? I'm happy to speak to anyone as long as I feel they're sincere, and I can reach out to anyone. But I can't guarantee they'll reply or like agree to come on. But people generally are if they have the time. So because what it is also, to reiterate what I've kind of been saying early on here, and kind of why I've kind of done this video, is it's been difficult to get a hold of people, and arrange, get a date set, get a reply from them, to make this kind of content, and so what I kind of have to do is reach out to a lot of people and like if I like email 10 people, I might get a reply from like it really depends, but say like 3 or 4, and then of those 3 or 4, like 1 or 2 might say yes, and then of those 1 or 2, 1 might be like actually able to do it and stuff and that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So basically what I'm saying is I kind of need to email a lot of people to get regular content. Like I probably need to email like at this stage anyway, while the channel is small. Obviously if the channel had like 50k subscribers or 100k or something, and I was getting like hundreds of thousands of views or tens of thousands of views, then if I emailed 10 people, probably like 8 would reply and like 5 or 6 would probably be like up for it, and so it would be a lot easier to get people on basically. But as it stands, you have to reach out to a lot. I have found that I have to reach out to a lot of people to get like one person on, and so I've kind of struggled a bit. So I've emailed a number of people, and I'm just wondering if you guys have any suggestions. Yeah, man, I took a long way of saying that, didn't I? If you guys have any good suggestions. Sounds like the two you are considering would make great interviews. Yeah, for sure, but you know, they're, you know, in the works. You know, they won't be out tomorrow. So basically I need a bunch more names, and I'll come up with them in my own time as well, for sure. I certainly can do that, and I will do that. But if, you know, you guys are engaged, you know, if you guys have any recommendations, even if you think of them another time, you know, just message me, and if you think they're interesting, I'll have a look, and I'll email people for sure and try and get them on. True, but you never know who you might run into the UK in New York. Sorry. Yeah, true. Yeah, I thought you were in US. Now your trip to the US sounds like a much larger task. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not in the US. I live in the UK, in England, in Manchester. So, yeah. So going to New York again, yeah, it wouldn't be as difficult because I've been once already. But it's not a day trip. Okay, I'll have a quick look at this poll and then I'll wrap up in the next couple of minutes. Yeah. Do you know Amir Hetroni? I don't know who that is, bro. Let me just quickly Google that. But let's have a look what this poll is saying as well. Okay, an Israeli professor, yeah. Okay, no, I've not come across this guy at all, no. Okay, yeah. He's an Israeli professor of communication science, novelist, comedian, and social media personality, commonly described as an internet troll. I've not come across him at all. Yeah. I don't know who he is, man. Who is he? Yeah. Yeah, I know the first time can be way harsh. My first time in Asia was a bit much. Actually, I found it really no problem at all my first time in the US, to be honest, yeah. Yeah, man, nice to see you too, bro, yeah. I've heard of him, he's anti-Zionist. Okay, yeah. Let's have a quick look at the poll and then I'm going to wrap it up, unless anyone has anything. So what do I do? Stop poll? How the hell do you see the poll then? What's the poll? Dude. Alright. Can you lot see it and I can't? Because, let me have a look. Like, where is the flipping poll, man? Like, guys, where's the poll? Like, I don't understand. It's on screen. How do I interact with it? I got no idea. You don't see a poll. Can you not see this poll on the left hand side? How? It says reset, edit, duplicate. Obviously, I don't want to do any of that. Okay, resume. Okay, but like, you guys have voted on it, right? I'm guessing I've been on for 2 hours, so almost. I think people have voted on it. So how did they vote? Like, oh, what? Okay, type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Okay, so contract. Oh my gosh. So if I put like, okay, yeah. So if you guys just write 1, 2, or 3 in the chat, like whichever one you think, right? I think someone earlier said 2. So if that person types 2, will that come up on the poll? Oh, I see it, but can't interact. Yeah, I don't think you can interact with it. As it says there, type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. I think you have to do that. But where do the results come in? Okay. Yeah, okay, let's give it like 2-3 minutes, yeah. If you guys type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat with regards to this question on the left-hand side, I'm just doing a poll and then I'll end it in a few minutes and we'll call it a day. So it's one is, you know, basically, would you like this channel to remain as interviews only as it currently is? Obviously, the caveat with that is they are fairly infrequent. Hopefully, they will ramp up, but I have to. The more views, the more subs, the more people I think will say yes to interviews, and so the more frequently I'll be able to get people on to interview. So, you know, it will be a bit slower and hopefully pick up, you know, if it's interviews only. Two, that's number one. Number two is the same interviews, but also weekly live streams, maybe something like this. Or if you're listening earlier, if not, you can go back after, I think, what time was it at? Maybe 1 hour or something. I was discussing basically sort of, we could do it live. Yeah, we could do it live for sure. Sort of critiquing other people's interviews and maybe critiquing claims that people are making online, you know. An example of that, which I showed earlier, was the trigonometry, sort of the what is it? You know, review of the review of the trigonometry podcast with Dave Smith. You know, where I sort of broke down things that I think they're saying that were rubbish, and you know, if you guys are interested in that, if that's worth doing. And then option 3 is basically you're only interested in the interviews. However, you know, the live streams basically don't bother you. You probably won't tune in, but you're not going to unsubscribe because there's a live stream every week, basically. Because part of my concern basically is, like, I would go with 2, right? But my only concern is most of the subscribers have come since the interviews with Professor Norman Finkelstein and Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro and the interviews following. So most subscribers to this channel, are subscribed to watch like serious interviews, which I will not stop doing. But my only concern is if I only do those like one every 4 to 6 weeks for the next however long it takes to build up a bigger channel, to get more access to people, right? So that I can do them more frequently. In that time period, if I'm only doing an interview every 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm doing a live stream every week, then my only concern is if people start to unsubscribe because they, you know, for whatever reason, they don't like seeing the live thing there on their feed, or they think, oh, this has just become a reaction live stream channel and he's not doing serious interviews anymore, or something like that, which is definitely not the case. So yeah, so that's kind of the dilemma I've kind of been with, you know. So you want to be sure people won't unsubscribe because live streams annoy them? Kind of, I guess so, yeah. Oh yeah, and you could be looked at as more of a live stream channel as it would be frequent. Yeah, exactly, you know, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, so I mean, I always intend to like primarily do the interviewing and like serious interviews with people. But as I say, to reiterate for the last time, it's hard to get people on, and it will take time to build this channel and grow. And as that happens, I'll be able to do more and more interviews. But in the meantime, I can do some live streams. But I just want to check, you know, how people feel about that. But yeah, the interaction is better in a live stream. You know what? It definitely is. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. Live streaming brings something else to the table. But interviewing is definitely the primary like goal. It's what I enjoy the most, and it's what it's like serious stuff, I feel, and it's important, and so it's like a primary focus. How long have you had this channel? I've had this channel a long time, to be honest. I've just been on and off and done different things and stuff. If you go through the videos, I'll let you check yourself. You can check that yourself. I have some videos that are like totally like to do with totally different stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely nothing to do with this kind of stuff. Okay, so let's have a look. So can I where's that one? So stop poll. Okay, yeah. So maybe I should have mentioned the so the you guys, thankfully the three of you who dropped it in the chat, appreciate that. Maybe I should have I didn't realize myself that you have to type it in the chat. So anyway, whatever. I'll have a think about it. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll have a think about it. Well, let me just wrap up by saying this. Like, appreciate you guys watching. Definitely, you guys who have watched and commented. What? Hold on, mate. Okay, he was hit with a chair. All right, man. That's a bit mad. Why was he hit with a chair? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, okay, I appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you guys commenting. I've, thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest. It's been good to kind of like touch base almost, with you guys. I really do appreciate your feedback, like, sincerely. And anyone watching this, like, after the fact, feel free to comment and all of that, like, or privately message me, whatever, if you have any suggestions or thoughts or whatnot. What I'm thinking is, because only a few people commented on the poll, maybe what I'll do is maybe I won't do a live stream weekly. I'll try and keep some sort of balance, maybe. So if I haven't been able to nail down an interview for like a few weeks, then maybe we can do a live stream in between. So just so that the channel doesn't get saturated with loads of live streams and a few interviews. Like I'll have the live streams as like filler content a bit, but only as much as it's kind of useful. And so it doesn't, like, I don't want this channel to just become just live streams and stuff, as much as it's, enjoyable and that kind of thing. Yeah. So maybe a balance, basically maybe a balance, and maybe not a weekly live stream, but maybe a monthly live stream. How about that? And so the guys who are here mostly for interviews, assuming there are a decent amount of people here mostly for interviews, they won't get the impression that this has just become a live stream channel, So you might see like one live and one interview kind of balance. And then as I say, as the channel progresses, hopefully, subscribers and views, when I email people and say, hey, I've been following you, blah blah blah, I'd love to have a chat with you about such and such, here's a link to my channel, when they click on the channel, more subs, more views, more chance of them saying, yeah, okay, yeah, like, you have a decent audience, I'll come on. So yeah, that being said, for anyone watching, if you want to do something similar, you don't actually need loads of views and subscribers for someone to agree to an interview. Like, bear in mind, Professor Finkelstein agreed to one, Rabbi Yaakov agreed to one, and so on. And I didn't have like the subscribers or viewers that I do now. So just putting that out there. But if you want to do regular interviews, then having more subscribers and a bigger YouTube base viewership, obviously it helps, and it's kind of necessary. Yeah. All right, wicked. Yeah. All right, man. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate all of you. Shout out Nord. Yeah. May Allah make things easy for you in Germany with your practice of Islam, and shout out Toxic as well. And everyone. Yeah. Tisley, is it? I don't know. I'm terrible with reading and names. I think maybe that's the majority of the names that I recall. Yeah, I appreciate everyone. Yeah. Okay, I'll so next week on Saturday, this time next week, I will be sitting here recording offline an interview with someone, and that will be around an hour to an hour and a half, and I will try and keep editing to a minimum, hopefully, to get it out quick. And so you should see that uploaded in like let's say from now, within the next 2 weeks, that should be uploaded for you. Yeah, and then after that, I'm going to message Rabbi Ilham Beck and arrange something with him, maybe within the few weeks, hopefully, if he has time. So yeah, okay, just to let you guys know. Yeah, Free Palestine indeed. Thank you to you. Have a great day. Interview with Amir. This guy, I don't know, say his surname. I'll look into him. I will look into him. I don't know anything about him, so I have to look. Appreciate the suggestion and keep suggestions coming in private on here, whatever. Yeah. I just have to look into them first. Yeah, but I'll definitely look into him for sure. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And if you can click the like button, guys. I forgot to mention that. I didn't say that at all. If you can click the like button, that helps the algorithm and all of that, and like comment on the actual video. Like, you guys know how it works. If you can help as much as you can with like hitting the like button and share it if you want. I don't know. I don't really share stuff, but share it if you want. And yeah, hit the like button and a comment and that, and I sincerely appreciate it. And I will catch you guys in a live stream as well, maybe in like a few weeks. But hopefully an interview will drop within the next 2 weeks. Okay, wicked. Take care. Thank you.